know this man?
Mr. Townsend of Unipo. Mr. Townsend of Unipo.
This isn't Mr. Townsend.
Please call the communications desk of the public library.
It's time we were introduced.
Welcome back to Cocktail Cinema, your weekly movie review podcast. As always, I'm your first favorite bartender, third favorite author, Josh Price. And I'm joined by my co-host, Greg, and our producer, Shasti.
Glad to be here.
Boys, let's hop into the time machine, and let's take this boy back to 1959 as we review North by Northwest. This is an Alfred Hitchcock movie. Like I said, this was released in 1959. It had a budget of $4.3 million and a box office return of 9.8. So I think if you do the adjusted gross, that's like this movie was made for $90-ish million in today's money, and it had a return of like $200 million.
Yeah, that's a ton of money for 59 to put into that. I mean, I guess at this point we're talking Hitchcock's. He's 3 decades, almost 4 decades into the mix, so they're pushing money.
Yeah, and he's in his Scorsese period at this point. He's like he can do whatever he wants.
Fine-tuned. Everybody respects
over a
him.
2-hour movie.
Right.
So
that's a good comparison for how much the dollar was worth then too. Because every hotel scene when he's handing out dollar bills, I was like, that's like a $20 tip.
I'm an advertising. I'm an advertising.
He's handing him a W.
There's a lot of money thrown around. But then again, I mean, we're also talking about a guy who's in advertising. So
But even
anybody who watched
like
Mad Men,
changes of clothes and stuff, he's still always got his ball of money.
Yeah, well, he's got that walking around money, you know?
The wham.
Yeah.
The wham.
But I do find it interesting that our avatar character, or our main character here, is a liar by industry. You know, what he does for a living is, you know, kind of tweak the truth and, you know, pretend some things or other things. And then the whole movie's about him getting gaslit.
Yeah, but you can't pick it up on his own when it's happening to him.
Right.
On a personal level.
Yeah. And I think a lot of him getting snowed is the fact that we have our Hitchcock blonde in this movie. Like
yes, we do.
The person
Eve
that
Kendall.
distracts him. Yeah, the person that distracts him from, you know, the obvious lies around him, the obvious intrigue, is, you know, this woman who is apparently fascinated with him.
Tales old as time.
Yeah.
Guys will chase it no matter what.
You know, I mean, who doesn't want to be a 50-year-old white man in America with a 22-year-old woman on your arm?
Right.
Yeah, totally believable. Totally believable.
She does it on heavy.
Yeah, and Hitchcock does that a lot. Like, think back to Vertigo, and it's the same kind of setup. And that's why they call that character the Hitchcock blonde, because it's just this drop-dead beautiful woman who is, for whatever reason, enamored with this man who's leaving his prime.
Yeah, right.
And it's always based around like whatever the big twist of the film is too.
Of course.
They tend to be
the Hitchcock
hiding
blonde.
something.
Yeah.
Hitchcock's a short, bald guy, and he's just, you know, living vicariously through his...
The male patriarch is strong in his movies, right?
right.
His personal life does bleed a lot into how he casts, so you're not far from the truth. But this movie's about getting further from the truth, if you will.
Yes. Dive in.
I texted you
Splash
while I was watching this, because I haven't seen it in a few years, and it pissed me off.
Right.
And Hitchcock absolutely got the rise out of me that he was looking for, because for the first hour of this movie, he's getting gaslit by absolutely everyone in his life, even his mother.
Yep.
And
I hated her. I
right.
fucking hated her so much. Like, we were talking too. It's like, how does your mom not even believe you? Like, these guys tried to kill me. They dumped a bottle of bourbon on me. Like, come on, man.
Like, you know I drink gin. Why would I be drinking?
Right.
That's something that would make sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
exactly.
Like, my son doesn't drink bourbon. Maybe he's...
The cops don't follow up for a damn worth. I would say,
No, and it's... They're at the house of someone who works at the UN. This could have easily been rectified. Like, give the UN a call. Like, hey, is this guy home?
One call.
But who are these people?
right. Yep.
No, I'm getting off the rails because I got heated.
I like when you get a little pissy. Let's talk.
The Hitchcock got a rise out of me.
Yeah.
Like, I was so angry. Like, nobody's listening to this man, and his life is going off the rails. Damn right. Like, I'm not a gin drinker, but here I am.
Oh, speaking of, what do we got here, Josh?
Oh, yeah. That's right. All right. So, if you remember, when we first get to the dining car scene which is approximately like 45 minutes into the movie.
Yeah, roughly.
And our main characters come into play. Our boy orders a Gibson.
Yep.
Now, a Gibson is a traditional gin martini with a pickled onion. So your proportions here are 1.75 ounces of gin and a 1/4 ounce of dry vermouth, and then you drop that little onion in there,
pickled
and
onion.
it gives it a little more of a salty bite than a lemon twist would,
and also a little spice.
And yeah, it's more spiced than an olive. So that's the thing that makes this different from a normal martini, where not only is it you almost always have to do gin with a Gibson, and it's traditionally stirred. I shook these because
no,
yeah,
none of us are gin drinkers.
I'm not stirring gin. I need
we'll
a little bit of I need a little bit of chill. So there we are, and it's definitely forward.
It's not bad.
I thought it was gonna be terrible.
The olive. I'm not the olive. The onion. That's a good little twist.
Yeah, I think
middle-aged white dudes were drinking way different drinks. That is good, but that is
strong.
I'm gonna chase it with a little.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
I don't blame you. Well, to add to that kind of martini level and kind of where we're at in this film, shaken not stirred kind of thing. Yeah. A lot of people call this the original Bond film. As such.
Okay.
Just like as a genre, Bond.
Genre, like a mystery thriller. With a guy with a enthralling, enticing way of dealing with women and getting that pretty blonde, and it's always walking.
It's always the Hitchcock blonde,
right? And it's parallel to that for sure. And along with, he wasn't an agent in this film, but he kind of
becomes one.
Right?
Yeah, he's called upon.
He's climbing walls. He's doing shit all to get the girl. And he does it with grace and swagger. This is I think the first Bond, Sean Connery, came out like 4 years after this one. So that's why people kind of correlate this to the first Bond flick. And Hitchcock has had his feet planted firmly on a lot of future features. These are taking a lot
James
from
Mason too. He kind of resembles a younger Sean Connery.
Right.
Like, towards the end of in the third act of this movie. I was like when they were about to depart.
The villain in this movie.
Yes. Van Damme. He does kind of resemble. Yeah.
But I thought that was kind of cool. It's Bond worthy.
Yeah, it's definitely
in that universe.
Yeah.
No, and it's an interesting character type to have in this movie because, like we said, when you're first introduced to him, he's more Mad Men. He's I forget what that character's name was. Whoops, but he's a professional liar. He's there to make people buy products. He's at this time period, 1959. He's selling cigarettes, Coca-Cola, and heroin.
He's
right.
So
he's bombarding,
but also a professional schmoozer, a people person, a people pleaser. He knows how to get what he wants through different angles.
But it's essentially not like a lie. But it's
bending the truth.
It's bending the truth and just bombarding the public with it. You know what I mean? He gets a taste.
Yeah,
I didn't even put that together, but you're right. He totally just gets a taste of that throughout the whole first act of this movie, and it's enough. And
it's a believable transition, which Hitchcock's really good with his character development. We've seen in his previous work some of that development is done
very much
through the cinematography, which we will get to.
Yeah.
But the writing here, it's believable.
Right.
Like there's no point with our main character with Roger where I didn't believe his impetus. I believed his reasons for everything.
And in which it goes on the other side of that coin because Hitchcock's not known for that whatsoever. He's not a dialogue kind of director. You know what I mean? He relies very much so on his cinematographer,
his visuals,
and shadows and just overall scheme.
Robert Burks.
The dialogue is usually it's second tier to Hitchcock with the way he writes.
It's framed by the cinematography.
Exactly,
almost,
exactly. So you're totally right on that aspect. But
and
it seems like he's kind of grown.
Yeah, and even this late in his career, like we said, he's been behind a camera for 40 years.
Yeah,
he's still using that transatlantic, dialect, if you will, the accent, with his actors when everyone else in cinema is moving into, I would call it the groovy style, where it's a little smoother. It's a Pacific Midwest kind of accent.
Not North by Northwest.
Not North by Northwest.
Pacific Midwest.
Well, even in Hollywood, like, I mean, it varies from movie, but even in like today's time, you know what I mean? They'll tell you to mirror more of a Midwest accent, more of a neutral accent than East or West Coast.
Yeah.
My dad owns this dealership, bro.
Yeah.
You're not from City Valley.
That's interesting. Like, you're right. That probably started around this time and highlighted by a movie that isn't dominated by a heavy dialogue.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Spot on.
I will say, for as meticulous as Alfred Hitchcock is, there are two dangling threads for me that don't really get answers. And the first is...
Dingleberries. Dangling
The
threads.
first is, why did they think this guy was Kaplan? So
Right.
Kaplan is this fake person that the CIA have concocted to put the fear of God into a smuggler, right? That's what our villain was doing. Yeah. He's smuggling trade secrets and national secrets. He's a spy, but also sold stuff. Anyway.
In this instance, it was the photos inside of the relic that was at the auction.
Yeah, the microfilm. Yes. And they never explain why the villains thought that Roger was Kaplan. There's no description of the guy. There's no mix-up.
Right.
And then you're kind of swept up into the story and you forget about that.
Yeah.
So it's forgivable.
Mm-hmm.
But
even to add on to that, I mean, like the picture that was left there for him to pick up and to put pieces together, that's a puzzle piece that
isn't
there's
answered,
no puzzle around it. It's just that it's
just there.
It is, but he does a good job masking it and moving on from it. I mean, like we talked about before, this movie is so well paced. You're not losing anything on this film. It's bang bang bang.
Absolutely.
And the sequence they put together and the overall landscape shots, just to kind of give you home base, like whether it's the Chicago train station or the hotel they spend a lot of time with.
Station.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So I mean, he keeps. I think that's why is because he's able to have these questions unanswered, but also they keep you in one place long enough to build home, a base, a realm of each situation. That's kind of what I pulled from it,
The other thing he doesn't answer is, why is this movie called North by Northwest?
Well, from what I took, I think at the ending they were supposed to end up in Alaska, I believe. This is an alternate ending.
But they had a different name at that point. It wasn't
It was called something along the lines of like northwestward or something. It was something so stupid.
So this is a much catchier name.
Yes.
But the only thing I could put together is he flies by Northwest Airlines.
Right. And that's it's on the end of the movie. It's right
It's just
there.
tacked on.
Right.
And it just feels like, this is a cool sounding name. But it has very little to do with what's going on in the story, because even if you start in New York, you're not going North by Northwest to get to South Dakota. You're going west.
Well, I mean, he's chasing this blonde. Maybe he's just sitting north.
Like sitting North by Northwest. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
10 o'clock.
Yeah, right. I was from 6 to midnight.
It's 10 o'clock. North by Northwest.
He's just working.
I just figured it was just purely geography. Like, where Mount Rushmore is. You know what I mean? It's not Northwest. Slightly more. You know what I mean? It's not West by Northwest. It's North by Northwest. And you're right, even if that's wrong, and it's solely just because it sounds cool.
Yeah.
I mean,
and that was the working title.
Cool enough for a music festival in San
Antonio,
South by Southwest.
True.
Like it is that cool.
I'm not saying.
And that was the original working title. That wasn't even like they went through like 6 titles, but that was the original working title. And they just kept it.
Yeah.
So
but it changed based on when the geography changed.
Yeah.
Where their destination was for the final act, and that. Based on the name change, that makes me believe it was geographical.
Yeah, it had to be. I select my idea.
Thank you.
I can get on board with that. Like I like the phallic answer better.
That's
just because
it's funny.
Dicks are funny. Yeah. But it just kind of hangs there. And
we got another one.
It
just kind of hangs there.
Don't go to the train scene next. Greg's gonna bring up like 3 more jokes.
No. I think the train scene is important for a lot of reasons, and the one of them is dialogue, which I'll get to in a minute. But Grego, you had mentioned this was the same cinematographer as Vertigo, correct?
Yes, he's done over a dozen of Hitchcock's films.
Oh, really?
He won awards for
Robert Burks. Yeah, he won Oscars. He won over a dozen Oscars working with
just on
Hitchcock. Just on Hitchcock.
So he's probably
well
done
known
20
for sure,
100%. I'm throwing it out there, but
and I mean that's only Oscars. I mean he's been the accolades stack up with this guy. Robert Burks. I mean he's a beast. I mean we've seen it. I mean Vertigo. I mean the shadow usage, color schemes, and it's the guy knows what he's doing, and you do it with the guy with Hitchcock, which is known to be kind of a dick.
Yeah, very meticulous.
If he's good with you, you're in a certain place on his level.
You can tell too that Robert Burks or Brooks.
Burke?
Yeah, Robert Burks.
Yeah.
Burks was like you said, they worked so closely together. They were kind of developing at this point in Alfred Hitchcock's career. Burks was kind of.
They both were stepping stones at each other. They were using each other to
we were drawing the parallels to Vertigo, and like the car scenes are huge.
Yeah.
And in Vertigo, like the opening scene for North by Northwest, which is funny because in any Alfred Hitchcock movie, my favorite part is finding Alfred Hitchcock.
Yeah.
Like it's a Scorsese movie. Like where's his cameo? You know what I mean? And sometimes it's obscure as the back page of a newspaper in one of the scenes that they're hiding their face.
Not this one.
You get it
right up
while the
front.
opening credits are still rolling. So
jumping on a bus.
After I saw him, and in Vertigo, that's another parallel I'm trying to say is that it was the car scene when he's following around the Hitchcock blonde. In Vertigo, is Alfred's crossing the street. This one he's getting onto a bus, but it's pretty much the same exact shot. But I think with those automotive scenes. Because we talk about how the rigs are like limited at that time.
Yeah.
So it's really these two guys working together on the lighting and the color schemes of every car, classic car in the shot, every bus and billboard and everything.
And to talk about how Hitchcock and Burks set a name for this, the Hitchcock effect. Who thinks behind that? Not just Hitchcock. You know what I mean? Like the dolly effect. I mean, these camera tricks were not just Hitchcock.
Yeah.
He gets the glory. He's a glory boy.
Well, that's the modern comparison would be Roger Deakins, who is the primary cinematographer for the Coen Brothers.
Yes.
So if we're going to make that's
a perfect comparison.
That analogy,
it's a perfect comparison. Yeah.
Deakins, with his big contribution was he always worked with film, like actual film, and until he believed there were things he couldn't do with film that he could with digital.
Cool.
And with Burks, he did things in previous films apparently, but definitely Vertigo, where he was kind of he was using that older generation technology to accomplish some crazy stuff.
Yeah.
With like stairway scenes and perspective.
Absolutely.
And then we transition into this movie, which is I believe only a year or two later.
1 year, yeah.
1 year.
Came out a year after.
And it's him going back to the basics. He's like, all right, we're using some new technology, nothing significant, but slightly more updated cameras and different film. But he goes back to the basics. He's like, all right, I'm going to take this new stuff and I'm going to do the old stuff perfect.
Right.
So that's why, those static shots where we're watching people cross the street or static shots on the train, the camera doesn't move a lot.
No.
But it's perfect.
And that goes into what I was saying before as creating a realm for each scene or sequence. They rely heavily on big, broad shots just to sustain home base.
But it puts you in the scene.
Yes, 100%. 100%.
Like you're saying, the camera's barely
you're
moving.
diving
on
into
some
that.
of these action shots at the time. Like I keep bringing up the car scenes that he does in Vertigo and in North by Northwest, but in the one where they get him drunk. And
yeah, for sure.
And it's that whole scenario you've seen a million times, but it's nighttime.
Yeah.
We talk about motivation for lighting in a lot of these. Like how do you achieve that camera angle that's mounted on the hood of the car facing the driver and have him centered. Where normally you're using the rule of thirds and everything, but center him and give him perfect lighting at nighttime is have him swerving. So oncoming traffic is
lighting his face in between the light poles.
And now we can cheat and use like things like a gimbal. But they weren't able to do that.
But without that,
that's what I'm saying. It's glorious.
It's selling it by just giving the motivation.
Well, it's really understanding your setting as well. Because all right, this guy's driving at night in a secluded area, but there's traffic leaving the city still.
Yeah.
So he's driving into town.
And that's always been my biggest takeaway
for
Hitchcock is the lighting and shadows. That's from for Hitchcock. That's what I take away from all of his films that I've seen, at least.
Understanding the lighting for sure, like you're saying, but it's you have to understand it. You have to understand it as a master to sell it to somebody who's not even thinking about it.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Because something that's not done that perfectly could leave somebody who has no eye for proper lighting confused.
Yeah.
And it takes away from all legitimacy that you have built up through the entire film.
And that takes that taking place of dialogue in some of these huge scenes is just.
Well, and
can I go back to the Coen brothers?
Yeah.
Yes. Go for it.
You had a good scene that was very Coen brothers-esque, as far as like, hey, we don't care.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
not to like, yeah, we'll give her a boob job. So
the burn after reading,
the burn after reading,
the burn after reading moment in this film, where when
I had to do
when
that.
the
It's
CIA realizes that Kaplan now has a face and it's our boy Roger, they're having a board meeting and they're like, so should we kill this guy? And the professor in my opinion, he's like the secondary villain of the movie. He's like, no, let this play out. Like, just see what happens.
No, he's good.
He's good. He's helping us out, and
he's probably gonna get
disposed
anyway.
Yeah. So it's just like that. Well, what did we learn here, boys?
Yeah. And
absolutely nothing. The problem solved itself,
and it goes into the stamp that he's put on that these giant names, Coen brothers, that they still, in my opinion, that's kind of a callback. It's a throwback to him. I mean,
for sure. And
it's definitely a heavy influence, if nothing else.
Yeah.
That and there's going back to the moment on the train. It makes me wonder if Hitchcock had to really censor his dialogue a lot, because we talk about how his dialogue is very
a little slimy.
It's not in your face. It's not necessarily as believable as actual conversation as some directors of the time, and definitely later. But there's a moment on the train where they're flirting heavy, like they're going to town.
Oh yeah,
and
Pound Town.
They're riding the D train.
D train.
I
can add to this one too.
Yeah, and she, like Eve, clearly, when you watch her lips, says, "I don't make love on an empty stomach," but in the ADR, it's re-recorded as
I never discuss love on an empty stomach.
Exactly. So by this point, I was not doing anything else. I was only watching this movie because, like I said, I got pissed off in the first hour.
Right.
I'm like, I'm right or die with this guy. I saw that happen.
They had to edit
we just did like Tommy why so, and you're pissed about that.
No, I'm saying if they had to edit that in post.
Yeah.
No wonder there was a heavy emphasis on the dialogue, right?
Well,
no joke we make
have
made in the last 5 minutes would be able to put on there, let alone like anything. They're just like with that scene naturally playing out. That's
I never discuss love on an empty stomach.
it's like you know what I mean?
Yeah,
but I mean, for 59, this movie had that slime ball kind of connotation anyway. We talked about at the end where you're gonna make this girl lay in bed with these guys. They make her into this kind of prostitute.
Well, it's a movie of its time, but at the same time, Hitchcock is kind of being a little progressive here.
Yeah, exactly. For the time, that's what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, again, 1959. Yeah. This is you haven't had. Let me think. When did Lucille Ball? I think it was I Love Lucy, where they had the husband and wife in the same bed for the first time.
Oh yeah, for the first time. And
the first pregnant.
And she was pregnant. Yeah,
exactly. We are less than 10 years out from that. Yeah. And Hitchcock recorded dialogue where he's like, he's talking about a one-night stand.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, this is scandalous.
And also when they're going Pound Town, D train, like we talked about, when they're getting busy in that point, the train's entering the tunnel right there.
The visual there. Yeah.
You got to insert that gif.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm saying he's a genius, man. He knew what he was doing, and
he is.
Cary Grant gave an amazing performance. I feel like on that Bond kind of character. I know I've been talking about it just to go back, but that smooth, charismatic, 45, 50-year-old man.
Yeah.
Pulling 20s,
Yeah, he's
male patriarchy is real. No, Josh,
rich white men in New York in the 50s.
You're bringing up I Love Lucy and how there was, no one slept in the same bed, and they couldn't have even a pregnant woman on the show because that implied that they would sleep in the same bed, and they took it a step further. That I just watched that We Are the Ball.
Yeah, I did too.
And
it's good.
I didn't even put that into play watching this film at all.
And then it was like interracial.
On top of that, yeah. We covered Guess Who's Coming to Dinner too, but but with this, it's just like the one night stand on a train versus Lucy and Ricky can't even be like, oh, we're pregnant and we sleep in the same bed. That's crazy parallel to draw. It's
absolutely
crazy.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
I mean, in the scope of things, this is not all that long ago. I mean, if you consider. If you can consider the history of film, which, hey, subscribe to our Patreon, we're going to talk about that. The history of film, I mean, Hitchcock, our director here, has been directing for 40 years.
Yeah, since the 20s.
So we're
I think his last works was like 72 film. Or something. Like he's had a huge career.
Yeah.
I mean, over 50 films.
Yeah. So there's a lot to take away from North by Northwest, both with the legacy of the Bonds and obviously Roger Deakins learned a lot from our boy here, and we're still seeing the impact on film today.
Yeah, his legacy is definitely living on and in a high place.
Yeah, and for Vertigo to be considered possibly the best film ever made.
That changed. 2012, they changed it from Citizen Kane to I forgot whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever.
North by Northwest. Yeah. Given the quality here, it's
top
up
15,
there.
top 20,
it's up
and everybody's list. On everybody's list.
So, Greg, we here. I don't know if I've told you this. But we hear Simple Opinions.
I'm new
we
here.
have to rate our movies.
I'm new.
Out of 100 tacos. So 0's the worst, 100's the best.
Carnitas,
so
barbacoa.
If you're thinking about your list of movies, greatest movies, how would you rate North by Northwest?
91.
Ooh, that's a high score for you lately. That's a good
I do
one.
put it there. I think even with Vertigo, I personally choose this one over Vertigo. I mean, it's only because my personal style, not from anything else. Just easy watch. Like sometimes I watch the movie straight through. Sometimes, which is not good. I split it in half and come back to the next day. I held on to it. I stayed up till 2 a.m. when I should have went to bed and go to work. But I loved it, man. It carried itself really well. It's Hitchcock, master of thriller. I mean, and you can't take yourself off of this watch. And for that, I give it a 91.
Alrighty, Mikey, what's your rating?
I'm trying to remember what I gave Vertigo, because
I don't remember what I give it either.
It's that close to a margin as Greg's saying, but I placed Vertigo above this one. I feel like Vertigo had more of the Alfred Hitchcock twist.
You're right.
That you're looking for. This one though, like I want
it's a better film overall. Yeah.
All right, so I can't remember what I rated Vertigo. I'm gonna rate North by Northwest 88. I don't want to say I gave Vertigo a 90. I give it 88. I think I gave Vertigo a 90 or 91.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna say 88.
That's fair. That's fair. When I say this is a better film overall, I mean it just influenced things like Die Hard in ways you don't expect.
Right.
So this is more of a straightforward action thriller.
Yep.
Rather than the Hitchcock twist.
And which is crazy. Those two movies came out a year apart.
Yeah.
Vertigo. We're talking about Vertigo and North by Northwest.
Talking about range. I think that's the most important thing.
58, 59. You got to be kidding me. This guy's just
the turnaround on that.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable.
He hit his high water mark. Like
yeah.
Right
well, I also don't remember what I rated Vertigo, but regardless of what I did, I'm saying this is a 93, and this might be better in my opinion than Vertigo. I love Jimmy Stewart. I love Vertigo, but this is an easy watch, like you said. Like it's over 2 hours long, and you can sit down and watch it and blink and it's over. So yeah, 93 for me. What do we got for Rotten Tomatoes? Okay.
All right.
So we have a 97 from critics and a 94 from audiences.
We're getting rough on these.
Yeah, we're harsh today. We're harsh.
I'm actually surprised by that audience score because not everybody looks at this movie in the light that like critics do.
Well, how many?
Really, for a critic score and an audience score to be only 3% off is it's overwhelming. It's usually not that close at all.
I'm curious. Like normally it'll say how many people rated it, but it didn't for whatever reason today.
5.
Yeah, right.
Us 3.
Yeah. I would imagine this might be fewer people have seen it.
Yeah.
Because it is such an old movie. And, you know, granted, it's...
The internet being what it is.
Yeah, well, it's streaming on HBO Max, for those of you who'd like to go see it.
And Turner Classic Movies has it free, too.
Yeah. So we're going to
There was 109 ratings for the 97, which was...
That was the
Tomato
critic score, yeah.
So that's
pretty
pretty
good.
big pull for the...
Yeah, for critics.
We're going to flip this on you, audience. Those of you listening and watching, let us know down in the comments what your taco rating is for North by Northwest. Do you agree with us? Is it better? Is it worse?
For
Let
better
us know why.
or for worse?
For better, for worse. And also, what was your favorite scene in this movie? Because there are very distinct locations and very distinct settings, and you could probably make a movie out of almost any of them.
Elgin. Elgin.
That's what we're getting at. This is a hometown movie. Greg, Shasti, audience, thank you for being here. I appreciate all of you individually, except for one of you. You know who you are. But this gin has got me feeling it.
That Gibson song.
I am.
That Gibson.
I got the burps.
Hack the Gibson.
I'm feeling
Hack
a little
the
buzzed.
Gibson.
So,
Hack the Gibson.
guys, I gotta say goodbye.
It's going to be a long night.